This is a story from a week ago, but there's an update on it. So there's this guy over at the from NPR, and he's worked there forever. And he wrote this article at Barry Weiss's Substack about how effed up the NPR is. And the headline here is NPR journalist blows whistle on network's obsession with DEI and progressive dictates. That's how they
dictats.
What's a dictat?
It's like
I thought is that a tattoo you get on your anyway, and reveals how stories like Hunter Biden left. So here, let's get into it. Wait a minute. So a veteran NPR editor has blown the whistle on how the publicly funded broadcaster has become an activist organization obsessed with pushing progressive ideals. Uri Berliner, boy, oh boy, a business, that's quite a name, huh? Boy, he's a business editor at NPR for 25 years has offered a glimpse into his belief that NPR has gone from a respected information source to one that can't be trusted to honestly cover the news. Well, if I don't know if you listen to NPR, it's horrible to conservatives. It's horrible to the left. If you're an actual lefty on social issues,
it's paid programming from a.
It's just establishment liberal claptrap.
Yeah, right.
And I don't consider liberals left. Just so you know, liberals are authoritarians. And there's they're corporatists, they're pro-war. There's
basically fascism on every level.
They're pretty
corporate government, I
would say. So he says NPR editors were quick to jump on claims that Donald Trump was a Russian asset. They did. They pushed Russiagate. I'm sure they still do.
Yeah.
But far more reticent to cover their subsequent debunking. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, they didn't cover the debunking. Very few places did. It was, by the way, we were the first to debunk that story, Russiagate. We were the first ones to debunk it here at the Jimmy Dore Show, okay? We had Bill Binney on to let you know that there was no way Russia hacked into the DNC server. That was all garbage. We did that here, right? Does the Washington Post give me credit for it? No, the WikiLeaks still calls me a crazy conspiracy theorist.
Well, I choose to forget about the whole episode, move on to the next thing I'm upset about, which is still Trump.
Yeah, still Trump. It was a similar story with the COVID lab leak theory. Yep, that's right, which NPR continued to discredit.
Continues, as in right now.
Oh, continues. It still does. As well as Hunter Biden and masking, which bosses declined to cover, Berliner says. Today, those who listen to NPR or read its coverage online find something different. The distilled worldview of a very small segment of the U.S. population, Berliner writes. He tracks the last days of the old NPR to 2011, when he says it still had a leftist tilt, but still bore a resemblance to America at large, and an audience that described themselves as 26% conservative, 23% moderate, and 37% liberal.
I remember that. They were always kind of left, but it wasn't like how in the paper used to say paid advertisement. You would get like The Onion back in the day, and somebody would pay for ad space and try to pretend they have an article in it.
Yeah, yes.
And they would put paid advertisement all around, be like, this is not ours. There's no such thing as that anymore.
No.
Now they don't have to put paid advertisement, and it's whatever the billionaire that paid him wants it to be.
Berliner explained that the Trump's 2016 candidacy for presidency changed how NPR covered politics. Writing, what began as tough, straightforward coverage of a belligerent, truth-impaired president veered towards efforts to damage or topple Trump's presidency. NPR, Berliner writes, became obsessed with rumors about Trump colluding with Russia to defeat Hillary Clinton, repeatedly covering Representative Adam Schiff as he led the fight against Trump. Schiff, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, was interviewed by NPR as many as 25 times about Trump and Russia, says Berliner. According to Berliner, Schiff would often allude to alleged evidence. It's not according to Berliner. He would always go, I have secret evidence. He would do like what McCarthy did. I have this secret list. I can't share it with you. That's what Schiff was. He was the classic at that. And he said he had evidence that he had seen with his eyes that would, but we've never seen that evidence.
Did he purse his lips together and wiggle his balloon?
Yes. According to, Schiff would often allude, However, when special counsel Robert Mueller's report found no credible evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia, Russiagate quietly faded from our programming. It's bad to blow a big story. What's worse is to pretend it never happened, to move on with no mea culpas. That's exactly what happened with Russiagate. That's what happened with COVID. That's what's going to happen with Ukraine.
That's how we left Afghanistan.
That's how we left Afghanistan. They're never going to tell you the truth about Ukraine, by the way. They're never going to tell you the truth.
We lost 2 wars, and it doesn't even come up no more. Yeah. And if you bring it up, nobody remembers.
Nobody even knows what happened.
Why would they admit wrongdoing if 2 disaster satanic wars failed in a row? Nobody mentions
20 years.
A 20-year devil sacrifice.
I remember Vietnam. They couldn't stop talking about Vietnam until about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, fix that problem, huh?
But yeah, now they never tell. Well, they got the media consolidated down to just 6 companies owned by a handful of billionaires. So now you don't have to talk about Vietnam. You don't have to talk about our modern day Vietnam, which was Afghanistan, which was Iraq, which was Libya, Syria, now Ukraine.
But communism has never worked, Jimmy, except in Vietnam, and they beat us.
Yes, that's right. Berliner also slams NPR for ignoring the New York Post report on Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop and its sordid contents in October of 2020 as the presidential election approached. The journalist cites NPR's former managing editor for news, Terrence Samuel, to explain the decision by saying, quote, "We don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories, and we don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions." Okay, that's so if you're that bad at journalism, you get a good job at NPR. Yeah. As Berliner writes, we now know that the laptop did belong to Hunter Biden, and the device revealed concerns about influence peddling by the president's son. Yet Berliner recalls hearing a colleague say it was good that we weren't following the laptop story because it could help Trump.
Yeah. Well, let me guess, they were millennial age.
And that's happened to a lot of, and that's what people got mad at me. My old what? Oh, I didn't where. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all when millennials came, that when they rose up through the blogging ranks into your HuffPos and Daily Beasts, then they moved on into real news. And that's how they all think, like that. It don't matter if it's true, it might help the bad guy.
That's what I got in a lot of my ex people who pretended to be my friend in Hollywood in comedy. They did the same thing. So when I wouldn't stop telling people that Hillary Clinton was a warmonger and an enemy of workers, and she cheated Bernie Sanders in the primary, they got mad at me.
Yeah, right.
They were like, "You're helping Trump." That was it.
Yeah, no, they would throw themselves in the volcano if it could stop Trump. It really goes like. What cows you knew?
And look at Joe Biden. I mean, look. So everything's going, and they're the ones who pretend that everything's going great under Joe Biden.
They know he's senile too. They're just like,
well, it's not even about him being senile. It's just about look at the world around you, right? He's funding a genocide. He's trying to start World War III with a nuclear power in Russia, and that's a bullshit war. Just as bullshit as Iraq was, just as bullshit as Afghanistan was, just as bullshit as Libya and Syria were. But they're all too stupid to actually get informed and know that those are bullshit wars.
If it were sports and we're talking about just overall record, they'd put it together.
They would put it together.
But this one, no, we start over with a clean slate after every new fresh defeat.
So he says he heard colleague said it was good that we weren't helping the laptop story because it could help Trump. NPR also refused to fully report on the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic, with editors deeming the lab leak theory racist or right-wing conspiracy theories. Of course. Berliner writes, "We became fervent members of Team Natural Origin, even declaring that the lab leak had been debunked by scientists." Really? So,
what scientists? Some experts say.
Yeah. But think about it. If you're an operative for some alphabet agency and you need to see which publicly funded institutions might need your positive influence to keep a lid on things, do you really think they would miss NPR? Right?
That'll be the first one, okay?
It's already got 3 letters, so they're halfway there.
They don't even have to fill anybody in. These are dingbats, Brooklyn progressives that are just going to... They're programmable life forms is what they are. And they're just going to say the thing, just like the Chomsky. They don't got to be told.
That's right.
They just instinctively know to circle their wagons around establishment.
Brooklyn, the theater in Brooklyn won't even return our emails anymore that we played. We sold that place out 3 or 4 times. And the one guy who was the manager there said, "Hey, could you sign a book for my dad? He's a big fan of yours." They won't have me back. They won't even admit they know me anymore. That's how bad Brooklyn is.
Trouble.
Yeah, they're getting big trouble for having
you don't want to play there.
That's right. No, I don't. No.
Really fuck bro. I remember the thing said protect Brooklyn. That was like an AK on it, these shirts people would wear.
Oh, yeah?
Defend Brooklyn. You said attack Brooklyn. Okay. That's my motto.
I'm not. By the way, I think Brooklyn's highly overrated. I mean, just as a place to live. It's not half as walkable as Manhattan, and
depends where you are. It was good for a minute.
It does depend.
Yeah, and then
it does depend where you are. Yeah. Berliner mentions a colleague who compared the lab leak theory to the Bush administration's unfounded argument the Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction. But these two events were not even remotely related. Again, politics were blotting out the curiosity and independence that ought to have been driving our work, Berliner says of the comparison. Again, I hate that people call NPR left wing. It's liberal. And it's much less progressive. It's like calling Ted Nugent a hippie because he's got long hair. Okay.
Look, the eagle has two wings, controlled by the brain of the eagle at the top.
Berliner puts much of the blame for NPR's shift to the ultra left on former CEO John Lansing, who he says became a more visible figure after the 2020 killing of George Floyd by a police officer. The journalist explains Floyd's murder, captured on video, changed both the conversation and the daily operations at NPR. Instead of exploring the question of systemic racism in America, Berliner writes that the message from the top was clear. America's infestation with systemic racism was declared loud and clear. It was a given. Our mission was to change it. Lansing then reportedly declared that diversity would now be NPR's North Star. Diversity would be. Not
our
news,
North Star?
Not truth, not journalism, but diversity would be NPR's North Star, an initiative bolstered by a $1 million grant from the NPR Foundation.
Oh, hey, truth is downstream from diversity, Jimmy. That's what we used to say at the old Do Better Center.
That is exact. Wow. Notice that none of these things are initiated because it would be the right thing to do, but only because of how it would appear.
Oh, grow up.
These people are so shallow. If they were a whiskey bottle, there wouldn't be enough to drown a rumor. Journalists would now be required to ask everyone they interviewed about their race, gender, and ethnicity before entering their answers into a centralized tracking system.
You're joking.
No.
Why are we just now hearing about this from these punk-ass journalists?
Berliner,
just now?
Just now. He says a growing DEI staff offered regular meetings imploring us to start talking about race.
Everybody that kept their job through that, you deserve all this. You didn't say nothing. You just sat there.
Well, there's a story. Yeah. Spoiler alert, he got fired for this.
Well, good. I like him then.
Monthly segregated dialogues were offered for women of color and men of color. Non-binary people of color were included too. I don't know.
Two for each binary.
They're just trying to make what sells over there at NPR. If this was 1980, everyone would have to wear a cowboy hat like Don Imus and go live out of Mickey Gillies.
It doesn't sell. But here's the thing. It doesn't sell. Imus did sell to. Sorry, this is someone paying them to do it, and everyone hates it.
That's right.
Unless they're a moron cow.
Of course, NPR is infiltrated with the. I mean, as all newsrooms are with the intelligence community, right? And so that's what. And the intelligence community doesn't work for the president. The intelligence community, the FBI and CIA, doesn't work for the president, and they certainly don't work for citizens. So who do they work for? They work for the international billionaire class that runs everything. The same, right? And there's a lot of people who still think it's a joke that the CIA had something to do with Kennedy's assassination, or if they had something to do, or DARPA had something to do with the COVID. They were funding the research at the Wuhan lab. It's funny with people.
At this point, there's only deliberately. I don't want to know anything.
Yes,
and then that's it. The only people that don't know that they deliberately made a choice to not know anything. It's been too long, and it's too absurd now to not notice. So they're making a conscious decision to not know things now.
Several employee resource groups based on identity. There's a lot of this. So he goes into the. Yeah. Do you want to see this? He goes, several employee resource groups based on identity emerged, including MIGPOC, which is marginalized genders and intersex people of color mentorship program. You got to be kidding me. Me Genti, Latinx employees at NPR, and NPR Noir,
It's like Baywatch Midnights.
The group became so important to NPR's union, SAG-AFTRA, that a current DEI section in the contract requires the company to, quote, keep up to date with current language and style guidance from journalism's affinity groups and to inform employees with the language diverts from the diktats of the group.
You ever hear of an affinity scam? That's what they do on affinity groups. Like you get scammed based on your identity. That's what all this is. It's an affinity scam.
You think if they were looking for equity, diktats would be dictwats?
Oh.
It's just a thought. It's just a thought.
I think they mean dictates, but they're saying it like real politique.
Is that how they say it in England or something? Dictates?
Probably. Who cares?
So if it does, Berliner writes, the dispute could go before a DEI accountability committee.
Yay!
Berliner sums it up as, in essence, this means that the NPR union, of which I am a dues-paying member, has ensured that advocacy groups are given a seat at the table in determining the terms and vocabulary of our news coverage.
That should help the pay.
For Berliner, however, the most damaging development at NPR is the absence of viewpoint diversity. Of course, they have all the superficial diversity,
right,
except real diversity. So they have diversity of color, diversity of gender, diversity of sex, diversity of race, ethnicity. What they don't have is diversity of thought.
Right.
That's a dog whistle, Jimmy.
That is
that's a dog whistle for why the premise.
The journal, just like The View. Anyway, the journalistic shares that there is
stupid women.
There's an unspoken consensus about the stories we should pursue and how they should be framed. Well, that's in every news organization. Yeah. The stories usually cover instances of supposed racism, transphobia, signs of the climate apocalypse, Israel doing something bad, and that dire threat of Republican policies. It's almost like an assembly line, he writes. Berlin writes that about the a document called the Transgender Coverage Guidance. What in the?
Yeah, well, they used to call it a style book at magazines where they go, "This is how we're going to say."
Yes,
I remember when they rejected saying homophobia. The guy from I want to say New York Times, he goes, "It's not a mental disorder. We're going to say anti-gay." This is years ago. Because by the way, it's a very stupid term to make it a phobia. But now they have it for everyone. In that transgender guidance, that said that journalists should avoid the term biological sex. I should avoid it?
Avoid it.
Okay, how do I describe if I'm looking to date a woman who doesn't have a cock and balls? Is there any term I can use to specify my preference? Obviously, they're all women, but I'm just saying, what term could I use to indicate you have a vagina that wasn't made by a mad scientist?
You're being anti-trans.
That's why I got fired from NPR.
He goes on to cite the bizarre stories that have stemmed from NPR's DEI obsession. One story claims the Beatles and bird names are racially problematic. They are. Others justify looting and suggest fears about crimes are racist.
What's the problem?
Boy, Anna, the camel toe enthusiast over at TYT is getting a piece of that.
Anna Camelsporian?
Yeah, she found out crime is bad, and now she's a bad lefty.
Oh, man. Don't look into the CIA, Anna. You're going to get really
Please
hurt.
Don't look into the CIA, and it'll hurt your feelings.
Just stay gold.
Berliner shares that after finding there were 0 Republicans in editorial positions in his D.C. newsroom, he presented the information in an editorial meeting and suggested there was a diversity problem. The journalist says he has been persistent, writing emails to top bosses when he thinks the coverage has gone off the rails. He has flagged NPR's use of the term Latinx, asking why they use it if most Hispanics hate it.
It's not up to them.
Not up to them. Berliner says bosses have been respectful of his concerns, but nothing changes. I've become a visible wrong thinker at a place I love. It's uncomfortable, sometimes heartbreaking. He ends his essay by wishing good luck to NPR's new CEO, Catherine Maurer, which we're going to show you in just a second how crazy she is. Declaring, I'll be rooting for her. It's a tough job. Her first rule could be simple enough. Don't tell people how to think. It could even be the new North Star. So he resigned because he got suspended for that. And so this is from today, April 17th. He said, my resignation letter to NPR CEO, that woman. He says, I'm resigning from NPR, a great American institution where I have worked for 25 years. I don't support calls to defund NPR. I respect the integrity of my colleagues and wish for NPR to thrive and do important journalism. But I cannot work in a newsroom where I am discouraged by a new CEO whose divisive views confirm the very problems at NPR I cite in my Free Press essay.
Oh, she is hardcore deep state, that chick. I'm looking at her right now. After interns at the Council on Foreign Relations and Eurasia Group, she worked at HSBC in London. And so I thought it was going to turn out she's just some idiot that took like genderqueef studies. No, she's
this new lady.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
She's only 40. Yeah.
Hold on, we're going to talk about it. So hold on to that information. So that's the end of that story. And I knew it was bad at NPR. I didn't know it was that bad. And it's so bad they suspended him for saying that stuff, and now I guess he resigned, but I heard he got fired. But either way, he got suspended for it. Come see us on tour. We're going to be in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Cortland, New York, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Vancouver, British Columbia. First show sold out. Denver, Colorado, Ashland, Virginia, Athens, Georgia, and Minneapolis. We're coming back to Minneapolis. If you couldn't get tickets last time, there'll be some available this time. We're doing 2 shows. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.